Welcome back, and this is Hamza Khan, yes, and this is going to be a video on making our project a little more better, like making the interaction system, more cleaner and expandable. Currently it's not that great, so we can check this method and we'll see we have two different sections for pickup, and it's only a fixed amount of things we can do. So I'm gonna use an interface for this so that each interactable object has to use that interface. Similarly, we did this for a damageable object, so I'm also gonna change the name of this because it also serves for other things. So I'm just gonna rename this by doing Command RR, and this is gonna be iShootable because iHittable. I think iHittable will do better because later on our grenades will also use this. So let's save it, and we also need to rename the file. So let's rename it, paste in, enter, and that's it. So now that's done, and now let's begin with the interactions interface. So we're gonna go back here in Unity. I'm gonna reload the scripts. Because we need to have a weapon swapping system, so that means that there's going to be a weapon somewhere here, and then we have to swap it. So we're going to put this one there and get the other one. For that, we will use the same interaction system, and I think that we need to use an interface, as that will do better. So and this is basically interactable. It's going to compile the scripts, and we can just come in here. Every interactable. So just gonna remove that and just gonna add using Unity engine. Secondly, we don't want to inherit anything. This is an interface, so we're gonna set interface. We don't want any of these functions, and we're gonna begin with our first function. So every interactable object is supposed to display a message to our player before it isn't actually interacted with. So you're gonna have a public string message. That's the first one. Then you have, I think we can just set this to string, or maybe we'll see about that one later. Then you have a void, and this one is going to be interact. So interact, void interact, and I don't think we need this. Well, anyway. You can also pass in the player controller. So you want a reference to the player controller every time we interact with an object. Maybe you want to, have a reference to this with another interactive object. And yes, for our ammo will have to add some more ammo to our player after we interact with it. So that means that it needs a reference to the player controller to be able to modify the ammo. We'll later on have a method to add ammo to it, and that's gonna be how it works. Okay, so we have the two methods, string message, and we have the void interact. Let's actually implement this interactable to our ammo script. Do we have it? Yeah, it's just called ammo pickup. Just gonna rename that one, and it's gonna be ammo only. Copy that. I'm just gonna enter it. Come in here. It's gonna also need to be renamed class. Saving it, and it's gonna read those scripts. So for now, we only have this, and really, it's just the container or how much ammo we currently have. Now we're gonna inherit from interactable. So let's do that, and then we're gonna implement the interface. All right. So now we need to pass in the new message and that stuff. Let's just remove this and this. We can see we get an error right away, and basically we need to return some type of string, and that is basically going to be our local message variable, which I'm going to define. So serialized field private, and this is a string. This is going to be the interact message. Yep. And then in here, just set that one because it's changed. We can just add a header. What are we gonna put there? every time we interact, we need to do something. And it has to be done with this over here, the total ammo of this ammo box, right? That was an int, sorry. That would mean we need to do player controller, and now we need to modify the current ammo, which we do not have. Well, actually we can directly modify it. So we can also modify the total ammo. And yeah, so let's just do that. Alright. You're gonna plus equals it with 90 F. Sorry. Not a plain value, basically the total ammo it contains. Sorry about that. And this no longer needs to be public, so we're just gonna set it private. And the best practice is to always keep things private, especially if they don't need to be public. Usually, I use this serialized field to serialize a private variable, and yes, that's because having everything private, having everything public is not a very good coding practice. So yes, I'm gonna do this method, and that's what we've been using everywhere. So if you look up here, here's serialized field everywhere else as well. Only make things public which have to be public. So okay. So let's just add ammo settings. Now let's come back in here. And oh, it looks like we have an error. So basically, it's time to change and refactor all this code that we did originally. You can see how this doesn't make any sense. Let's try and hit that transform. That makes really no sense. Of course it doesn't. So we need to remove this code. And even this is not making much sense, so basically it looks like this is gonna be okay. No, the interactable object is not. For now, I'm just gonna comment this out using command /, or you could do what does it allow? Toggle line. Yeah, command / for Mac, and I don't know what it is for the Visual Studio on Windows. So you can just do this and check the shortcut here on your laptop. Okay, so let's actually write the code to interact or do something with the object. Okay, every time we hit something, we need to get the hit data. We get the hit data. We can check if hits dot game object. Well, sorry, we can't get that directly. First, we need to access the transform. Then from the transform, we can also get the components. If we can get interactable, right? Interactable, if that is so. If we can find interactable. Oh, why are we getting an error here? Oh, alright. No, it still doesn't. Oh, we have to do the try get component thing. Try get component. The will return a boolean. Yeah. Okay. Out, we're looking for an interactable, and that is interactable. I think we could try the get component one as well. So just put it back to get component. And yep. No, we can't. So we're just gonna do command C. Just use try get component. Alright. That way, if it gets the component, it's gonna come in this if. Otherwise, it's gonna ignore and move ahead. So, yeah, that's pretty much it that we wanna look for. Similarly, up here we were looking for that interactable object. Now, if we have something like that, we're gonna say interact UI. That's gonna be our interact UI, and we're just gonna enable it. Okay. And if we didn't find anything, so there was nothing that had an interactable interface, we're just gonna say interact UI dot set active, and that's gonna be false. So we don't wanna enable it yet. Okay, so if we have something in front of us and we can interact with it, we can simply check for input of the player, input.player.interact.triggered. And if we have input on that one, we'll simply say interactable dot interact. So we just want to looks like we don't have a reference. Interactable. Why is it not letting me do it? Wait a second. Interactable. Okay, we have it here. And we're gonna interact with it. So we interacted, and we need to pass in this. So this. Yes, we're gonna pass in this. Maybe game objects? Well, no, it doesn't accept the game object. We actually need to pass in this. Okay. That's because we did not ask for a game object. We asked for the player controller. And what's gonna happen here is gonna enable this, but it won't actually do anything, and it won't change the text to what we actually have defined here. So this thing is supposed to return the message. Let's simply say interact UI dot text, which we can't access. We need to do dot get component, and we're gonna try to get component of the text mesh pro. Oh, it looks like we have not written code for that yet, so we're gonna come back in here. Let me just check what our interact UI actually has. Interactions. Let's just delete this one. So this is the interact UI. Let's just focus on it. Oops, it looks like my shaders are still not fully compiled yet. So this is the interact UI. I think we can offset this a little bit on the left side. No, I think a bit above here, like something like this. So we also need to make the image better. Oh, what happened here? It's become like a script sign. Well, I'm not sure what has happened to the image. Oh, let me just create a new UI image. I don't know. I think I messed with the logo or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter because it's all the same, right? So forget about that. In our text, we are using the text match pro. So this text needs to be modified by code. Now we can set this to nothing. And now we also know that this is actually text mesh pro. So to get the text mesh pro, we just have to say using tmp tmpro. And now we can actually get a text mesh pro UGUI reference. So interact UI.get component, and then we're gonna modify the text. We're gonna set it to interactable. Interactable dot message, and that's gonna return us the string value of the interactable's message, which every interactable object must have. And yes, we are returning the interact message. Now we already add the total. Yes, looks like everything is going well here, except for this. I don't know what's wrong with the logo. Let's add a sprite to this. So we enable. Yes, we have got this here. Let's add this in here. So this looks nice. That looks nice. That looks pretty good. If we add some text in here, it looks way better. I also think that we can add some more alpha here, 200, more darker. So that's our interact UI. And in our play, we'll see some missing reference, maybe. Yes, we don't have a reference to that. Have the interact UI, and that's all that we need yet. Go up here and find the interactions place. Remove the pickup UI nonsense, and yeah, that's all. Let's come back in here. Getting an error. Oops, sorry, that was a mistake. It gives an error, so it says pickup UI doesn't exist. That is because it doesn't exist. So let's just delete it. Okay. Also, yeah, so that should do it. Alright, interact this. Everything seems okay. Now, after we have got it working, we'll add the comments. Let it load. Alright, got everything set up nicely. Let's focus on our play. So now, if we select our ammo pickup, or we can call it the ammo box now, it's actually an ammo box. It's no longer ammo pickups. It's just a box, and it's gonna handle everything itself. You can see all of these should have an interact message, and basically an ammo is gonna have an interaction message saying pick up ammo. So we're gonna say pick up ammo. That's gonna be it for this. And if we hit play, let's see what's going to go. Hopefully it's gonna work. And we get an error. Alright, so what's the error for? Getting it in the handle interaction. So if you look at this, and that's because, okay, so you can see you're getting it continuously. Double click, we get to the line where we're trying to get the component of time. Oh, of course we can't. So that's because, look, this reference that we have is basically interact UI, not the interaction text. It's just to interact text anyway. This is the interact image or background. And the problem here is we need to do get component in children because it's not the object that has this. So get component in children will get it. And now if we hit the play button, hopefully there should not be any more errors unless there's something really bad about it. Let's check it. So we can move there. If I come near this object, yep, so we can see the text and it says clearly pick up ammo. And if I press the button, yes, we got the ammo. So we can see that we get ammo but nothing else. And clearly this is also not going away. So we'll get infinite amounts of ammos, and that doesn't make sense. All of them do the same thing. They all work similarly. And to fix this, basically we need the two problems. So firstly, check out the interaction text. Oops, it's all turned off. Enable it. This is the interaction text. If you write something in this, especially if you write pick up ammo, well, you can see that because it doesn't fit the text size anymore, you can see it's quite small, it gets out. So let's just make the width bigger. Or how about we turn off wrapping? Have we enabled wrapping yet? Yes, let's just turn it off, disable. And that's better. The text at least won't come out that way, and that will fix our problem. Pick up ammo or whatever. Just said that to nothing. Why is there two things in here? So ammo background. Okay, just turn off the interact UI. That's gonna fix that issue. But now we just need to do a quite simple thing. And after we have given our player the ammo, we just need to say destroy game object. So this game object, just destroy it. And I know that this will not cause any bugs or anything, I'm pretty sure. Or shouldn't try it. No, forget it. So that's it for the ammo. Now we have made some other interactable objects as well, such as our gates, and that one depends on not on the interactable thing, so it will not work. The only way to get that one to work is to find the gate script, and here we have the gate script. So it has this public void. It doesn't use anything that we have currently made. It's gonna make it interactable. We're gonna implement this, implement interface. We're gonna remove this code. So I'm just gonna copy this code and delete this method. Then we delete this, and we can delete this one as well. Paste in the code that we had originally. In the message, we need to just make a serialized field, private string. Oops, not organization credentials. We just need private string. That's the interact message as well. And we're gonna set this to default of open. Well, I think we can say interact directly. Gate. Or how about open, close, gate. Now, I don't know how much this text is going to take. We just need to return the message. Interact message. Interact message. Oops. message, come on. Secondly, we also know that this interactable object is useless, so we can delete that after we have the interactable fully working. Where is my gate? So let's just look in the scene view. Select that one over there. Alright, that's the gate. Found it in the interactive section. So in here we have the interactable object script. Just remove that from both the doors, gates, whatever. Open close gate is the default gate script, and now if we press the play button, they all have the box glider as well. And we're gonna come here, come close enough, so we can now do open close gate, so they can see that fits nicely in the UI. We can modify this to a pretty big amount of size, and then maximize, maybe use something else. So we can see if we change the width to a higher value. Why can't we change this? 500 and the height to 100. It doesn't look that good. Then we can also change this pixels per unit thing to have a different effect. Oh, that doesn't look good. Keep that to 1 for now. And we can size this to 400. 75. So I'm gonna go with this much size. Yep, I think it looks good. And now, we also have an issue here. It's just still calculating this. For some reason, this one doesn't receive any decals. Let's interact with this. So interact. Alright. And the other gate should work pretty obvious. Same way. Yep, it works also. And with this interaction system, you can make any interactable objects interact with your player controller. So this was 400 and this is 75. So now we're done with the first part of this video, and we have fixed our interaction system to run with the weapon swapping system, which we're gonna make in some time. Maybe I think we can make it in this one or in the next one. So before we do anything with weapon switching or swapping, we need to make our system allow projectile and raycast shooting. So how we're gonna do that is gonna be quite simple. We have to also change the hittable thing. So it will require things also, such as the white damage. Oh, we have a method saying white damage. I think it's a hit. Alright. No errors. Good. So we can go and check the interaction in place. Yes, it looks clean. We can add some comments now. So check if there is an interactable object. Okay. The interact UI. Enable. Text. Then check for input. Interact. Disable. Right UI. Yep, so that's pretty much nice enough for the commenting. Now we can go back in here, and what we need to do first is add this comment. And what I'm going to change in here is we're not going to ask for a RAYCAST hit. We're going to ask for the vector 3 for the hit point. That's going to be the hit point, and then a quaternion or should we use, yeah, I'm gonna use quaternion for basically for the normal. Should be given the normal rotation. Okay, I think we can simply say normal. Hit normal. And so what we're gonna do here is, in the weapon script, we will need a custom editor for enabling, disabling some things. So currently, this is how it looks. Pretty, well, what do we say? It doesn't look that good. We have a shoot function, which simply does the recoil and closes the trigger. Reload function, we have the update function, which keeps checking if this is true, and if it is, we're just gonna continue our, I think, enable recoil. Shoot in will never be called anyway if recoil is false. That means that nobody has the weapon yet. Okay, so this is not where we're gonna modify anything. It's gonna be done in the weapon scriptable object. This is what's gonna actually help us get the types. So you can see we have these 3 types. Anyway, now we need to create a new type. So this is weapon type. Well, what do we call this one then? It's a public enum. This is need to be weapon type also. Well, I think we can say shooting or firing type. Firing type. With this, and then we're gonna say the first one is RAYCAST. RAYCAST or projectile. And that's it. And then above this we can apply a public firing type. This is the firing type that our weapon has. Now if we go back in here, well, we get an error because stand decals and all those decals we created originally, these scripts that we have manually created, I think this is also very messy. So now you can see the issue is we need to change every single script. Well, yes, we need to show potential fixes, and actually this is really bad. What I'll do for now is ignore and create a new script, which is gonna basically have all the decals. Or is it okay? I think it's okay for now. I'm just gonna go ahead and fix all this. So how do we fix this? The first problem is we need the vector 3, which is the hit point. To accept the vector 3, we need to accept the quaternion, hit normal. Okay, that's nice. And we want to instantiate this at the hit point. And we're just gonna get a hit normal directly. Use the hit normal. And of course, then after we pass in hit normal, it's not gonna work because hit normal is a quaternion. If we change this to a vector 3, everything should become okay. But we still have an error because this one is asking for a quaternion. So just gonna set this to vector 3 as well. And the error is fixed. Here we also have another issue. So we need to say the hit object. What was the hit object? Game object. We're gonna use the game object. It's gonna be the hit object. Save it, and we will now fix these errors. And the first error is it does not implement the correct interface. So that's because of the issue here. We don't have, I think we can use, just use the game object, hit object, and then here everything seems okay. We're just gonna change this to hit object. So we have to do this for every one of these, and because the script is same for every one of them, I think we don't have, oh, what's this? I wanna see it. So just gonna copy this and come in here, just paste in this one, add another one. So we need to do this for each and every one of them. Sand decal, we can see decal needs it as well. Then stone decal. Finally the wood decal. I think later on we'll make this just one script for all of these decals, maybe. But it's okay for now. So we still have an error here. Let's check if we have any more errors. And again, I made a mistake. Sorry, apologies. I'm sorry. So we have an error, and it's in here. We didn't add this one. Yep. Now it should be done. Well, there's still some type of an error. And in here we can see the issue. Where's the issue? Line is. Let's just go to it again. It's up there. Okay. So currently we're just passing in directly the hit, and now instead of passing in the hit, we're gonna pass in another thing. That's basically going to be the hit info hit dot point. Oh, well, first thing is to give in the hit dot transform dot game object. Okay, we passed in the game object. Then we need the hit dot point, and we also need the hit dot normal. So that's gonna be how it's gonna work. And secondly, we need to rename this one to hittable. We have updated our code, and we now need to have some way of checking whether our weapon has been selected as raycast or collision. Sorry, projectile, not collision. But of course the projectile is gonna just call that. So we're gonna actually have to make a whole projectile system as well. We have the public firing type, we have the projectile, already everything set up. Simply go in the player controller, and when we have the shoot function called, so we'll forget about the shooting function, that's not gonna control that yet. Handle shooting doesn't need to do that, but shoot function needs to know what to do. How this is gonna work is basically we're gonna do first if is hello. So is the current weapon, what's the current weapon doing? So current weapon dot, well, it's called the firing type. So fire, what did we call it? What's it called? I quite forgot about it. So it's called the firing type, and we should be able to access it from the current weapon data, and then from there we can get the firing type. So firing type is equal to weapon SO dot firing type dot projectile. So if this is RAYCAST, we want to do a different type of shooting type. Else, if it is current weapon dot data firing type is equal to weapon SO. Okay, weapon SO dot firing type dot projectile. So if that is so, we have a different way to do the thing. Now how this is gonna work is, firstly, this code is gonna be the same, as that's not supposed to change. That's gonna exactly the same. Now in here we have a completely different scenario. So we need to fire, basically we need to just fire somehow a projectile. How will we do that? That's quite simple. So you need to just call the instantiate function at a position, which is going to be as the spawn point. If you already check, we have the spawn or the raycast. What is it called? Let me just check it here. So we have the current fire points already made. Dot fire points. So you can see we have this reference. So we can right away say, okay, instantiates our a bullet. So that's like the bullet. So each weapon will also have a bullet, and that would mean that dot projectile. So we need that projectile, which can be actually put in the weapon data. So we're just gonna use the weapon data. Projectile, which we don't have currently. Prefab, okay. Projectile prefab, and we have to spawn it. To spawn it at the current weapon dot fire point dot transform, or what is it already? Transform? Yeah, it's a transform field. Then again, we need the current weapon dot, well, actually that position needs to be added here because we are using the position and rotation dot fire points dot rotation. So we're gonna spawn the object at that position and rotation. Alright, and let's just go ahead and just define this variable in here. All of these are public, so they can be accessed from anywhere. So basically we have the max distance. I can't see it here. Where is it? max shooting range, max shoot range. And yeah, so in the prefab, if we define a public game object, yes, game object should do, and that should be it. Oops, just a mistake. And we have just got this game object. Now this is really gonna lead to kind of a mess. And if you select, oh, what's here? Okay, so we have an error because I haven't yet finished the line. Let's just finish that first. So we need to basically add the, what do we have here? So we can add a transform parent if we want to, but I'm not going to do that right away. And then there's this funny type of tuples. What is it? I don't know. I'm just going to try this. Okay. So we just need to pass in the parent, and that's what I'm not going to pass in. That's it. To get a reference to this, we're just going to set it into game objects, and this is going to equal to this. This is the projectile. And here we just need to say projectile dot set parent sorry, basically we need to set parent to the hit. Well, we can't do that in here, right? So it's okay, so no problem, we don't need this. Rather, we just need to call a function. It's projectile get component of type. What's the type? Well, we don't have a script yet for this, but we'll just say bullet or projectile itself. Projectile. Let's say dot fire and the force, which is going to be here, and we define the method. So this is basically the amount of force. So we can just pass the current weapon dot. Now we don't have a force yet, so we can just go back in here, define that as well. So we have the max shoot range. We also need to add the projectile force. Okay, have that done. Go back in here. Oh, what's this? Okay, anyway, dot projectile or something like projectile weapon data dot projectile force, and that's what we're gonna pass in. Let's actually begin creating a script for every projectile and then making something to do for it. So it's gonna create a new script, and this is going to be our projectile. Now the reason why I'm supporting both raycast and projectiles to make our FPS system more flexible. So we can move on to the projectile script. Where is it? B, yeah, here it is. And we will firstly need a method which is public. So this is public void fire, and we'll take in a float for the force. So it's gonna be fire force. And now we need to do some type of code to actually fire the bullets. Firstly, we don't need to have this. We need a start but don't get plate. So we're gonna have a private variable, and that's gonna be our private rigid body, and that's our rigid body. Then right at the top, we're just gonna say, hey, we need this component because otherwise we're gonna fail. So that's gonna be type of rigid body, and just add that. Okay. So if we didn't find a rigid body, Unity is gonna automatically add that. So now in the start function, we can do rb.getComponent of type rigid body, and then in the fire method, so as the fire method, we're gonna just say rb.add force. This is gonna be a high force. Just asking for the force. In what direction? Transform.forward. Now what I'm gonna do here is maybe firing direction. Transform.forward. What else does it have? Float. Okay. multiplied by the given force, that's the fire force, times nothing else, because this is a force mode dot impulse. We don't need to multiply this with time at time, because this is just going to be firing it once, defending. Yeah. Alright, then we can come back in here. It's loading. And let's quickly create a projectile for just testing out this projectile system, because I actually don't want to use projectile system. Maybe later on when we will add some snipers, because for snipers you want realistic. For firing guns you don't need to do that, just have a short firing range, so if it's too far just don't let him hit it. And that's better, I think. So let's just create a 3D objects, and this is going to be a sphere. What's wrong here? Set this to transform. Just going to create another game object, and this is going to be the projectile, which we can then reset to 0, then add a read body and set it to continuous dynamic. We do want to use gravity. The mass is 0.25, pretty low. We don't want much of a drag, but we'll still add some angular drag and things like that. You can modify, and then yes, that should do it for the projectile itself. Then we add this in there, and we can say the model. Reset this one as well, because this is also created at the same place. And then this one has a sphere collider already, so everything will work, except that this is too big. So we're just gonna create a new empty game object, and this is going to be our transform modifier. So I don't want to have multiple. I don't want to modify the model nor the main parent, because having prefabs with different scale in 1:1 is not good. So I'm just going to use this technique. So we're going to scale this on all axes, and we're going to set this to really small. Maybe 0.05 would do. 0.1 is also pretty okay. See the ball, that's enough. Then this projectile can be simply dragged into the project to create a prefab. Then we can delete this. Alright. So now, let's open the project and get it here. So probably we would like to delete projectile after an amount of time, or if we hit something. So what this is going to do is we're going to say on collision enter if we get a collision, which we will. Okay. So if this happens, we're going to do hittable. Let's just go back in the play controller, and the same way we do this. So once we get a hit object, just gonna copy this, and then you go in here and paste this. So we're gonna get quite a lot of errors, no problem. Collision dot transform the get component, same with that. Then in here you can see we can't. Yes, we can, but you'll see that here it won't work, and it will also not work here. So because that's different. Get contact, we need to get the very first contact our bullet got in contact with. That's gonna be 0 index, at the 0 index, and we're just gonna copy this one, paste it in here. I want to write that again. That should do it. Just change hit, check if hittable. Yeah, I damageable. Hittable. Quite a few things we need to read them here. Hittable and hittable. Hit. Okay. So close that. Now we haven't completed that projectile. Let's just close it. So after we have done the hit, we do not destroy it yet. So we're just gonna say, okay, we hit an object. Even if it wasn't having hittable, we're just gonna destroy this game object, because we want to destroy it, even if it wasn't actually on a hittable interface guy. Destroy. Alright, so that should do it, but there's still one issue here. And what if your bullet is shot up in the air, and because we don't have any colliders, of course adding colliders would be dumb. Just keep this sky plane and clean. A better approach to this is to basically have time. So we can say serialized field private float, and this can be the max destruction time. I'm gonna set this to something like 5 seconds. And for this testing, we can just add a header. Display us the settings. Okay. So now our projectile has the script. We have the rigid body. We have the collider. And we didn't make use of this yet. Let's just have a look. So we haven't yet added the script. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna add it. Once we add it, we have these this max destruction time variable, which will now be used in the start function. We want to destroy neatly. We can add that time. Max destruction time. So Unity actually has this nice way. You can actually just tell destroy how much delay you want instead of using an enumerator or timer. Directly just tell the time, it will do it himself. Then the object is game object, our own game object, this object. And I think that's it for this code. Now, if you come back in here, you'll see we have the scriptable object. Now, if we set this to projectile or raycast, it doesn't matter. So, in the next part of this video, we're gonna use custom editors, and yes, we'll use custom editors for showing the projectile prefab and not showing it, or displaying the projectile force and not showing it, something like that. You know, for more cleanliness and better project management. So that will clean our inspector. It looks pretty bad already. You can see how we have made projectile force for no reason, even if it's set to raycast. I don't need projectile prefab either. But now for testing, we set this to projectile and pass in the prefab. Force is set already, and now if we select the player, we cannot see any new settings, so that should do good. Now what happens if we hit the play button and try to shoot? We get an error, and that error says that we don't have a reference to an object. That's due to the fact that we say, oh man, come on. Okay, sorry about this mistake. That was really foolish. That was dumb. Come on, I gotta forget that. I was literally asking the rigid body to get component of type rigid body, and rigid body itself is no, so we can't get component from it anything. Should have said it. So now also, okay, we don't have any issues here. We're firing funny balls. Yes. Still, we have an issue. Let's come out of play mode and let's debug. So we call the function. I don't know why it's saying this is an error. I have no idea why this is an error. Well, come on. What is the error? What did it say? Like controller handles shooting update. Did he not put the? Did we not put or set the current weapon settings or what? We set up everything, right? Let's just expand on. Oops, that's too much. We have to do this. We can hold it right away. I can't see any no variable in here. There's gonna be some reason we just got this error. I'm not sure, but let me just see what we can. Oh, sorry, apologies again. Well, what can be error here? Current weapon, it's asking it to shoot. What did we do here? I don't know. Let's try it out again. Okay. I wonder how we were spawning it sometimes. Alright, so you can see that we got a different one this time. And now it's sending us, it actually tells you here, even though it's sending me to play control every other seconds, It's actually somewhere in the fire force. So projectile.fire. We don't have the fire force. It's null. I know exactly what's wrong here. Basically, let me just use a debug.log to check if we have yet got the reference. Secondly, we also need to make sure we're getting in this fire force. Yes, we do. If you check this, you can pass in the projectile force, and we're gonna get a debug if it's null. Alright, let's have a look. No. Alright, that means that we're not getting anything. The rigid body has not even been set yet. Let's try out if start does this job for us. Sorry, awake. Maybe it can do it. Otherwise, let's just forget everything and just ask it to do this job here. Who cares about these functions? Drum. Okay. That'll fix all the issues. Okay. Well, it'll take me a while to think about that, because we might be calling starts before start. You notice another issue here. You can see the projectile is troubling our basically anyway. Looks pretty nice. See how fireballs. If you reload, you mag on the ground. Keep firing, so you can see how bad that looks. And there's a pretty simple way. So if we check the gun hold, well, where's the script that actually handles this? I don't know what it was called. It was called the clip. We already done that in the player controller itself. So we can see in our clip prevention, the clip check mask. Oh, my mouse. Okay. Clip check mask. So basically it is set to default, and these weapon itself are, well, just enable player maybe later on, not right now. We have these other stuff. So what we need to do is quite simple. Just have to change this guy's layer, add a layer, and we can say you are a projectile. Alright, then we come back and select this one, double click to select it so that we have full editing support, and select this. Yes, change children, and that's hopefully they will know no more. There'll be no more issues. Well, they're going really fast. I'm not sure why they weren't going that fast before. Let's set the force to 1. Okay, so we have another issue now. Our projectiles, basically what's happening is spawn and then they get dead right away. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select the mesh. Why is it loading anything? Just gonna drag this right over there. So before, our weapon was turning and moving out of the way. Now our mag actually has a collider, and the projectile gets the on collision enter function, and it says, okay, let's just destroy ourselves. Well, come on. Maybe we can, if we get it, we'll just use an F or something like that. Well, no, I don't know what to do here. Let me just have a look and think about the problem again. So if you select this object, we have a collider, do we? Yes, this one has a box collider. So the first simple method is to simply select the fire point and ask it to be nice and good and just act pretty neat and just come from here. No problem. Well, yeah, this will work pretty fine for now. Yep, we get fireballs, which then fall. The ball's pretty slow. The balls. I was connected again. Anyway. So yeah, that's our projectile system. And if you come in here and during play mode, because this is actually an SO scriptable object, you can actually change things. So this is RAYCAST right away. You see how our shooting is now RAYCAST. So that is it for this part of this video. In the next part, we're going to use some custom editors. You really know is custom editors are a very nice way to put custom stuff. And we're gonna serialize, like, we're not gonna serialize the projectile force if it's set to raycast, nor will we serialize this. And we'll also not serialize this if it's not selected raycast, and we'll only serialize these ones, the projectile prefab and projectile force, if it's selected to projectile. So yes, that is it for part 2 of this video. We are gonna use some custom inspectors to make this look nice, and let's do this in this part of the video. So which script is required to do this and handle this? It's the weapon SO. Let's find it. Close the 2 other ones. So to add a custom editor, you have to do some things. The first thing is to basically use Unity editor. So if you just write this like this, Unity editor. But because weapon SO itself is not under the editor folder, we'll use an if. So we're gonna use hashtag if Unity editor. So if it is the Unity editor, and then and the if. Otherwise, we don't want to use it. Alright. We will do another one here. If Unity editor, and we'll wrap our class in it. So let's do a public class that is going to be our weapon SO editor. Weapon SO editor. Let's add our bracket the class, and it has to inherit the editor as well. Then we have to add the custom editor thingy and add the attributes. So basically we're gonna say type of, and it's gonna be type of weapon SO. So this is an editor for a weapon SO script. So yes. In here we're gonna define a public override on inspector GUI. I'm here with the whole code now. Still I'll go over it to give a better understanding of what we're doing here. So firstly, we can see we have changed quite a lot. We've created a custom function for some things. So to begin with, we have added hide inspector to each of our variables. So you can see for this one. Now this is not actually something that's displayed in the inspector because it's actually enum, and this will never be displayed in the inspector, so we don't need to add that to this one. Only to the ones which we don't want the inspector originally to actually do it, because we want to call this function. So when you call this on inspector GUI, it's basically gonna do everything the default inspector would show. So it just shows this whenever you call that, you know. That's the only difference. So if I remove this, we just won't see this. I think it's okay to keep this on right now. So the rest of the variables, just add this hide inspector because they're all public and they'll be visible otherwise. So they will not be serialized, and we'll be able to do our custom stuff. Then we can see we've got quite a lot of these serialized properties. So we have the weapon name, and all of the variables we have up here, all of them are actually variables as serialized properties. So they are now stored as serialized properties. And then we defined an on enable inside our class, same. And then in here we actually do this. So basically what happens here is we're setting the serialized property to the serialized object, and we find the property which is inside this script named weapon name. It finds it and then simply gets it as the serialized property, and we're doing that for each and every one of these. So you can see it's quite a mess, but that's what you have to do. Okay, and then we just call this, so it will display everything that normal inspector would. And because we've set everything to be hide inspector except for this, which we can't change, it's just gonna show this. After that, we go down and we update the serialized objects, and right at the end we also apply the modified properties to prevent unsaved changes, something like that. You know, maybe it stops saving. And then you can see that we have made a custom function down here named draw property field, and taken a serialized property as property. And then we just do this code, basic editor GUI out dot property field, and pass in the property. So just to make it a bit simpler, instead of writing this full thing with the correct property, we'll just make it look nicer. So we can see that we have then drawn each and every one of these property fields, except that this one's below the condition. So you can see this condition here, it's below this one, and the rest of this, so you can just check this out, it's on top. So after that, we can see that we have this if condition, which actually checks if the find types and the value is 0. So now this is like an index, so 0 means that it's raycast, and 1 would mean projectile. So if it is raycast, we just want to draw property field magnitude range, otherwise we will not draw it, meaning in else we don't want to draw it, so we're not drawing it, and in else we're only drawing these two, projectile force and projectile prefab, exactly what we want. Yeah, so that will be it. Yep, that should do it. If we come back in here, we'll see that, oh yeah, try to make any changes, yeah, just a small one. So now we come in here and you can see it's a raycast. You can already see that only magnitude range is there. If you select this projectile, we'll see that we have the projectile prefab and projectile force. And if you change one of these variables, no problem. After we come back here, you can see it's all okay still, and come back again, it's all saved. Now set this back to raycast and projectile. Funny thing about it is it also saves, so maybe by mistake you select this back to raycast and then come back to projectile, you might have to assign all this if it didn't save it, but it saved it, so that's also cool. So just 200 or any other value you want. But this is a rifle. I'm not gonna use the this is just a short range weapon. We don't want to use the projectiles, so I'm just gonna set this to none, as there's no need to assign anything, and it's just a raycast weapon. So we have successfully implemented a whole raycast and projectile system. Now let's just finish off by adding some comments into our code. Object updated, and yep, we can update it. So I've done quite a lot of code, quite a lot of commands. You can say draw properties, check if type raycast, draw max shoot range. Projectile fields, and then the rest of the fields. Apply the modified properties, these, and this is draw property field function. Then we draw a property, and that should be quite enough commands to give a better understanding. Alright, so yes, that's going to be the end of this tutorial, and it's already quite long, I'm sure. Yes. Secondly, in the next one we're going to begin adding weapon swapping. So we'll have another weapon put somewhere, maybe on that slab or something, and if our player gets near enough, and once he uses the interact key, we'll use the interface to make it easier. That way it's going to switch his weapon to the other one, and then later on we'll add an animation if we find one. Yeah, so yes, that's gonna be the end of this one, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.